My first time in New Zealand, I was stunned by many things: the natural beauty of the islands, the loveliness of the people, the seriousness of their coffee, and the insane winds in Wellington. The other thing I was awed by was the Southern Cross. I didn't know anything about this constellation before coming to the Antipodes for the very first time. I mean, I guess I did know about it because the Southern Cross is a constellation featured. In fact, it's the only constellation featured on national flags, and it is featured on five different countries' flags: New Zealand, Australia, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, and Brazil. But stars on flags are so commonplace. I guess I just never put much thought into these five particular flags with stars on them. Yet there I was looking at the night sky over Auckland thinking, holy shit, what is that constellation? The Southern Cross, or Crux, is clearly a point of pride in the Southern Hemisphere because it's all theirs. And in a world that is so Northern Hemisphere centric, it's got to be nice to have something in the cosmos to call your own. The other celestial thing I noticed on my trip, and this was later after I'd been there a bit when I was traipsing about Australia, was that the moon waxes from left to right. It always waxes from right to left where I live, and this took a bit longer to wrap my head around. Like, the moon doesn't orbit exactly around our equator, nor on the elliptic plane of the Earth's orbit around the sun, but it's only a few degrees off. This means roughly that you'll see the waxing waning pattern differently depending on which end of the Earth you live on. If you live closer to the equator, maybe you won't notice this that much, but living in New York and then going to Perth, I could see the difference in the moon's phasing. I bring all of that up because in the 2005 road trip comedy turned torture porn flick Wolf Creek, there's a total solar eclipse late in this film. We'll talk specifically about this moment later in the episode, but after the weird lunar eclipse moment a few weeks ago when we watched Dario Argento's Inferno, I was a bit on edge about shitty moon research, but I think Wolf Creek actually handled this one well, and I was pleased, though I'm not sure I was pleased with much else here. We rolled the style of not for the squeamish. And while I'm sure the horror genre can do worse, this one fit the brief real fucking well. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Is there a road trip out there you really want to take? Northern
Road trip.
Australia.
You know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to drive the Pacific Coast Highway from top to bottom.
Oh, yeah. So how far does the PCH go?
I mean,
Do
I
you
would
know?
assume from like the American bits, I would
Yeah.
assume from like, San Diego up to was it Bellingham, Washington,
Yeah.
or something there, roughly thereabouts. Because I've driven that West Coast quite a bit, but it's always mostly been for work. And at times we've dipped into the Pacific Coast. We're like, oh my God, this is so fucking gorgeous. But oh my God, it takes forever.
Uh-huh.
After watching the birds, we're like, oh look, this, hour-long trip by the interstate takes like 2.5 hours by highway.
Yeah. I-5 is not as scenic as the
No,
PCH,
no,
but there are a lot more bathroom stops and
true.
places. There's a lot more places to pee and get fast food.
Yeah,
And you can be San Francisco to LA in like 5 hours as
yeah.
opposed to
Well, and
two
my
days.
my rule when taking road trips like this, and I found this one when I did the Great River Road, is no chain hotels, no chain restaurants,
Uh-huh.
and no interstates.
Yes. And also just make sure your car's working before
Yeah,
you go.
yes, yes.
I don't really know if I don't really have like a road trip in mind. I thought I think it would be fun. This is not the summer to do it, but I think it would be fun to do like a mini like baseball stadium road trip.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Like, living on the East Coast, they're all a
Yeah,
little closer together, so it'd be
sure.
fun to hit up Fenway. I mean, I live
Yeah.
in New York City, so I've got those two, but it'd be fun to go see a Pirates game, a
Hmm.
Phillies game, a Nats game, Atlanta Braves, all of that. I think that'd be a really fun trip. It'd be
Yeah,
a long one, but I've never been
sure.
to outside of Fenway in New York City. I've not been to any of those other stadiums.
Yeah, I've often wanted to do like a roller coaster road trip where you try to
Mm.
hit a lot. Clearly, you can't do them all, but like to hit up a lot of roller coasters in like a short period would be a lot of fun.
Oh, that would be really, really cool. Well, Cecil, Speaking of fun,
Hmm.
we watched a delightful movie.
You know, I thought that Mamma Mia was the most fun that you could have at a movie theater. And then I saw Wolf Creek.
It's an it's always like an old gag, and we often realize these jokes in real life, which is, oh, this would be hilarious as a musical, right?
Uh-huh.
Trey Parker doing a Cannibal the
Yep,
musical.
yep.
I think there's an American Psycho musical out there, but
Evil Dead the musical.
yep,
There, Saw the musical, I think, is actually happening now.
there you go. And yeah, I think torture porn would be a really interesting musical because
Yeah.
musical songs, the whole idea of a song, some of it you want to move the plot forward with the lyrics of the song, but a lot of it is just a chance to get inside the character. The music and the
Sure.
lyrics express their feelings, and
Yes. It's
what
like having
better?
a soliloquy
Yeah,
in a Shakespeare.
yeah. And there has to be a lot of internal thoughts that you just can't
Yeah.
capture with visuals alone.
Well, I think if they're going to do Wolf Creek torture porn, the musical,
Hmm.
you should make the music be equally as excruciating and have Philip Glass do the soundtrack.
Get a
So it's
Steve
like
Reich sort of thing.
like Einstein on the beach meets Saw.
What if that was the only
Atonal,
What
just
if it was
like,
an orchestra made up of saws?
oh
Like
my
that's
God.
how you have to make the music.
Honestly, take my money because that, like, here's the thing. You can, with the right concept and a good amount of execution, you can kind of get away with a lot of shit.
You really can.
So, like, watching this sounds far-fetched, but do Wolf Creek the musical, except it's all using stomp like equipment. So it's like all the stuff from
It's all auto parts that you
it's
have to
all
make them.
auto parts and like
Oh,
shit that you find in the torture museum that this dude has set up.
oh my God. Like it would almost become like analog hip hop at that
Yes.
point. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I do want to this we were chatting right before we started like this is a 20-year time capsule.
Yeah.
Very much so. And I think according to Wikipedia when I looked it up after it takes place in 1999
Okay.
and I think this was a very low budget independent film that
Mhm.
probably started filming in 1999 and finally released in 2005.
Well, I think it was the writer director wrote the script in the 90s and was
Yes.
kind of like, I don't really love this. And then actual Australian, there was like a famous Australian killer
Uh-huh.
that he was like, oh, and that kind of gave him the juice to retool his script.
Mhm. It does open. It's kind of like Fargo or many other
Yeah.
movies based on actual events.
Is
And
it?
you're like,
Is it?
anytime a movie says that, that's not going to be the case. Anything is really based. I mean, like Night Vale is based on actual events in that there are
Sure.
radio stations in
Yes.
community towns in the
Uh-huh.
Southwest.
There is a desert
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
based on that.
Yeah, Twin Peaks is based on an actual event because there's an FBI in the
Mhm.
United States
Yeah.
and people have gone missing before and been murdered. So yeah, we one thing I found I think that I was really pleased with this movie. The thing that I think really got me with this movie that I loved a lot. I love the look of it.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
love it. They shot this using HD video,
Okay.
which is so fascinating because it's not HD digital, it's HD
Mhm.
video. And so it has a very particular quality to it, a very particular look. It's not grainy like film,
Sure.
but it's not pristine.
Yeah, it's not
Uh,
pixelated
it's
or
yeah.
shiny.
Yeah, and it but it's still not grainy, but it's gritty. The colors render in really extreme ways, which could be post production, of course,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
but I think the way it was the medium on which it was shot, I think lends itself to that type of like color palette that it has. It's really I think just a really beautiful film in its look.
Yeah. And similarly, one of the things I was really impressed with is the sort of the handheld camera aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
which really, we've seen a lot of quote found footage horror films, but this is not a found footage, but it has the feel that like this feels real. Sometimes when things that feel real need to be edited artistically in order to actually make an impact.
Yeah.
And I feel
Um,
like this does that very well.
oh yeah, I totally agree. And I do wish we had more movies that used the found footage camera technique, but that didn't use the found footage conceit.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I think Janina was saying it when she came on for Noroi the Curse, which is that you just can't, there's no such thing as a found footage horror movie that doesn't at one point in time
Yeah.
kind of have to break a little bit of a rule and it becomes obvious just because they have to keep up that motif.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's allowed to break it because you know it's not operated by any of the characters. It is
It's a
operated by,
film.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a film. And it gives it an immediacy, it gives it a
Yeah.
fun, and especially because you could show somebody the first half of this movie. You'd be like, date night, let's watch the first half of this movie.
Yeah.
And then at like the 45-minute mark, you'd be like, you know what, let's take a break. I made dessert.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, you know what, let's watch the rest of that movie later. And they'll think, that was a fun movie. Have you
Yeah.
seen Wolf Creek? What a delightful
Oh my
film
gosh.
about friends
So
on vacation.
beautiful. A bunch of like 20 somethings finding themselves on it's like Jack Kerouac in
Uh-huh.
Australia.
It's man, it really lets that go for a long, long
Yeah.
time. And I think I liked that. I found myself
Yeah.
really into these three people,
Yeah.
which I was mad about because I know what this movie's going to do to these three people. So
Yeah.
I'm like, stop making me like people.
Yeah. Because and this is the thing that I think Hollywood doesn't always understand, or maybe not even execute. Maybe some people understand, but doesn't execute, is you can have young people that are not terrible,
Yeah,
that you don't hate just because they're young. And I think
agreed.
other countries kind of understand this a little bit better.
Yeah,
Because these three characters are exactly who they seem. They have like kind of an internal life. There's sort of a questionable hookup in the
uh-huh,
beginning and some like romantic shifting, but it's not in a like facade. It's not in a fake way. You
mm-mm.
actually feel like you're like, no, this feels pretty legit. This is what it's like to be in your late teens, early 20s when you're like, I don't know, we're all hot
Yeah.
and we ain't got shit to do except entertain ourselves. Let's do it.
One other thing that I will say on the outset, I did not enjoy this movie.
Mhm.
I am very much like this is the type of horror that is still very hard to
Yep.
watch.
Yep.
But I'm saying all this nice stuff up front, not because I'm like, now let's trash the movie. Because I
Yeah.
think the movie is very effective at what it's doing. I think it's a very, very good film. But it's got some date to it. It's got a little
Mhm.
bit of age on it. And also, but the other thing I would say that I really love is, for the most part, there are a couple of exceptions. The characters tend to make smart decisions. Now, those decisions go poorly,
Mhm.
but I'm saying that there are moments wherein
They're logical decisions.
there's some logic put into it
Yeah.
that fails, not because it's like, why are you running upstairs? Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
classic horror movie thing. There's a
Yeah.
few. I'm not going to
I
say
have
this.
I have a couple of moments where I was
I
like, Jesus
definitely
Christ,
do.
these people.
Yes, I definitely do too. But some of the bigger decisions, I was pretty impressed that they were making the right choice.
Yeah.
And it's just I understood at least why they were making the choice that they did.
Because this does feel like a Australian Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
Right? And when we go back and we watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, amazing film, terrible characters.
Yep.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Like these people have every possible bad decision
Uh-huh.
they make.
Yeah.
And in this one, there are some bad decisions made,
Yeah.
but they're not bad decisions. They're just like the least bad out of all the terrible options.
Yeah, which adds to the futility of the movie.
Yeah.
When
But honestly, running into the Australian outback with no shoes, I'm like, girl, no.
yeah.
But you have a 50-50 chance.
Yeah,
One
I mean,
character makes it, one character doesn't.
yeah. absolutely. And I think I'd rather run into the outback with no shoes
Hmm.
and no water than be stuck in a mutilation chamber.
Well, now here's the thing. I was being sent back to our episode on Fresh.
Yes.
And it's interesting, kind of this like when we get these lady in a cage, torture porn, like the thing that's keeping them here is the brutal violence and the psychological torture of like manipulation. Listen, if you shoot the bad guy and they are merely wounded,
Yes.
if you don't finish the job, you are forever in danger.
Yes. That would be the one when I said earlier, they mostly make good decisions with a couple of egregious moments, and that is the most egregious. It's one where it actually it's a big fault because we just saw that he set the gun down to get
Yep.
the knife,
Hmm.
and then she shoots him with
Yep.
the gun. He drops, grab that fucking
I know.
knife.
I was like, I will stab you in the neck until you have died.
I will take your head off like the woman you have taped
Right.
to your wall. Yeah.
Because that's, and also, and it's also, this is another thing that is, I think, very sort of most cinema does this wrong. Like, no warning shot, no
Mm-mm.
step away from her. You leave her alone. I'd be like, no, man, I'm coming with both barrels.
Yeah. I will pass on the advice, and I don't love doing this, but in case you are a person with a gun, I come from a family of people who have owned guns, and I was always told, if you're going to own a gun, if you're going to keep it in your house or keep it in your car or whatever you do, the moment you draw that gun on somebody, shoot them
Yeah.
immediately. Like, don't. If you are so threatened that you need to draw a gun on a person,
Yeah.
just go ahead and shoot them.
Shoot to kill.
Just shoot to kill. Ask
Yeah.
questions later. Be asked questions later. But yeah, the standing around hemming and hawing. I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 absolutely not. Well, let's
Let's
get to that
let's start
moment.
it. Let's start in the happy days.
Yeah. So we're gonna center on three people. We have Ben from Sydney, and we have Liz and Christy, friends from London. Right?
It took me a minute to
yeah.
realize that they were British.
Oh yeah.
Like it took me a while, and I was like, "Oh," and and that's later sort of driven home when they're like, "He sounds like Crocodile Dundee. Why don't you have an accent like that?"
Uh-huh.
But I think that's also like there's two things that I think is kind of playing under the radar in this movie, and that is Liz and Christie's Britishness.
Hmm.
Their sort of which is kind of classified as a more sensitive, little less rugged, a
Hmm.
little more cultured, and maybe more of out of place in
Yeah.
the wilds of the outback. And then that also links to the sort of time stop moment that we find in Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So this idea of cultured people go to wild wilderness
Uh-huh.
and do not like what they find there or are confounded by what they find there.
Hmm. That's so interesting. I had this thought about having these tourists, right? These
Mhm.
non-Australians in the Australian outback. And I thought you really kind of have to do it with the British.
Yeah.
You can't really do it with the Irish. I mean, I think that the Irish would struggle equally in terms of like the Irish outback is not similar at all to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Australian outback. But but there's something about the poshness of being
Mhm.
British as
Yeah.
opposed to Irish, or as opposed to
I mean, like, what if they were like
French or
Chinese?
German or Chinese or
Yeah.
uh, and in fact, actually, or Southeast Asian, which is people
Yeah.
who probably are in Australia a lot because
Exactly.
of
Like,
proximity.
listen, speaking from experience, when I was taking a little holiday in Australia, it was Chinese New Year.
Uh-huh.
So entirety of mainland China had emptied out on vacation and was in vacation in Australia with me.
Wow. Wow. Hang on.
And the thing is, they all travel by bus in groups. So this whole shenanigans of like three youth
Uh-huh.
with nothing but a tank of gas and a guitar, would probably not happen.
Yeah.
Because I think they're like, no, we're sticking together.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna see the sights and then we're gonna go the fuck home.
Hmm. And I definitely don't think you could make this movie with American tourists in Australia because I think it's a fully different
Hmm.
you could. I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
it would be bad, but it's
sure.
a totally different personality at
Well,
that
we have
point.
our own city mouse, country mouse divide here
Yes.
in North America, in
Yeah.
America, that I think is similar.
And we
You know,
have maybe not as dangerous a wilderness as Australia has
sure.
in
Yeah.
America, but we have a pretty vast,
Yeah.
unpopulated area of the
Hmm.
country that is at least dangerous and
Yeah.
filled with off the grid, no good nicks.
Yeah. I mean, and American, horror cinema is filled with its Your Hills Have Eyes, Deliverance, you know, tons and tons of movies of like, we're a bunch of college assholes, and here we are in the country laughing at these rednecks. Oh no, they're killing us. What did we do to deserve this? And I think you're right. What makes this movie so frustrating is that these aren't assholes.
No.
Like I think this movie does such a good job of setting up the like they're not dickheads. They're just young
Uh-huh.
and they just happen to roll into the wrong campground.
Yeah. This movie reminded me a lot of The Strangers in terms of that
Mm-hmm,
dynamic you just
mm-hmm.
mentioned because it is The Strangers is so upsetting because
Yeah.
these two people don't deserve
No.
or at least in the context of the movie there's nothing that sets up that they deserve this.
No.
And obviously like kids being bullies in high school or college also don't deserve to have a machete sliced across their throat.
Sure.
But
Yes.
in the context of a horror film, you're like, well, goodbye to you, fictional character who is a
Yes.
jerk to this nice girl.
Yeah, and there's a moralistic, especially in American cinema, I would say before the 90s, around the 90s, kind of when the flip happened, kind of around when this film was made, that like if you do drugs, you get killed. If you have sex, you get killed. Like that,
Uh-huh.
you transgress morally. And in this, it's a little more like et tu mama tambien kind
Yeah.
of morality of like, I don't know, people are going to be people. Like sometimes you wake up in bed with your friend, you probably didn't do anything, but also you're like, oh no, what happened?
Yeah.
But it's not like bad with a capital B, church bad. It's just, oh, well, we'll move through it.
There's this era of horror movies too was kind of the dawn of the torture
Yeah.
porn era too, because we also
Hmm.
talk about Saw
Hmm.
and even Hostel is going to come out pretty
Hostel.
soon
Oh
here.
yeah.
And there's a nihilism to those movies, or at
Yeah.
least it's an exploration that there is an underbelly of something really nasty that you're
Yeah.
not understanding is out there
Chaotic
in the
evil.
world. Yeah. And I think maybe coming out of especially in the Western world, that there was for like middle class and upper middle class and rich people in the 90s, and white people in America, especially, like there was like an economic comfort to
Yep.
that I think 9/11 shook that confidence
Yeah, yeah,
quite a
yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And the internet era too. And so
Like, what do you mean people hate us? We
yeah.
thought we were the shining examples of the world. What do you mean they don't like us?
And also,
What
what
did
do you
we
mean?
do?
Yeah,
What
and what
did
do you
we
mean
do?
Sinead O'Connor was right about the Pope?
Yeah.
Do you know, like, because it's not until the 21st century that it becomes a national conversation in America, at least, that, when we make jokes about like blue jokes
Hmm.
about priests,
Yeah.
that's rooted in a reality that's
Yeah.
actually happening in this
Yeah.
world. And that is not dissimilar to Mick in the Australian outback in this
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about we got off on the bad things. We're supposed to be
I
talking about
know.
this
We're
road
get
trip
back on track.
comedy, Cecil.
Because okay. So talking about this sort of handheld found footage feel, amazing. It's also the sort of like snap back, snap forward of time. Like we've got Ben going to buy the car. It's kind of the first shot.
Yeah.
And then and he's like, already his disdain for the blue collar, the
Yes.
working class is already a little baked in as Ben is a Sydney boy.
Hmm.
And then we kind of like flash back to the night before of like the drunken revelry. And then we kind of flash forward to the morning where Ben and I think Christy wake up together, and Liz wakes up on the beach and has her like, I don't know, that kind of that moment when it just reminded me very much of being like 20 years old.
Hmm.
And like it took me back to like, and especially like a New Year's Day kind of wake up where you're like, oh no, I'm supposed to be turning over a new leaf, but like pigeons eating vomit is the first thing I see on New
Yeah.
Year's Day.
Hmm.
But you're with a bunch of your friends, so you can kind of all be sort of miserable, happy together.
Yeah. Yeah. And you find different ways to rally and do it again.
That's
Because,
it.
yeah.
You throw on some sunglasses, you drink a Pedialyte,
Hmm.
and you just fucking buckle down.
Yep. I you bring up his like immediately we see the disdain for the working class
Right.
from Ben. And this movie is so interesting because that's not that that is a moral thing to be a Sydney boy, probably
Yeah.
middle class, upper middle class, and kind of look down your nose at the working class. But I think the film does something interesting, which is it allows you to do that a little bit because every blue collar person we meet, especially in the
hmm
outback, is a level of horrible.
They earn the reputation of being bumpkin.
Yeah, and nasty people. And it's,
Yeah.
I mean, in 2025, we're experiencing that of like kind of seeing the nastiness that comes out of middle America working class
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That's not all of them. I don't mean to generalize, but it's just to say that like there's a rot that can run through the outback of wherever your
Well,
country
it's what
is.
happens when you live in isolation. And so you're left alone with your thoughts
Uh-huh.
and the thoughts of your one neighbor that lives 50 miles away, and you don't get any kind of diversity of opinion,
No.
diversity of lifestyle, diversity, like the thing that breeds kind of, you're like, oh shit, well, there's other ways to do things. Maybe there's other ways to say this, that, or the other.
If you're only like the men in this movie, if you're only ever around yourself and other men of
hmm
your same background, you are going to say the most sexist shit possible.
Yeah.
And that's what all of these men do,
I
basically.
mean, I feel like there's a direct line from Wake and Fright
Uh-huh.
to this movie.
Yeah. Well, so this is Ben. Ben is definitely our city boy,
hmm
shaved head, cutie, tattoos,
Yeah,
muscly.
like frat boy muscle,
Yeah. But
Abercrombie and Fitch years,
yeah.
especially.
But decidedly, like, at least for 2005, it is somewhat enlightened. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
he doesn't seem frat boy in his
yeah. I mean, the
demeanor.
mere fact that he's going on this giant road trip with two women
Hmm.
that are, quote, that are his friends. He says he has a girlfriend, which of course his friends are like,
Uh-huh.
sure you do.
Yep.
I mean, that already is like, okay, so you're kind of cool. You're down to hang. And we see the drunken crazy revelry, and he's a throw alcohol everywhere, take his shirt off, jump in the pool kind of
Uh-huh.
guy,
Uh-huh.
but not in a mean-spirited way,
Yeah.
if that makes sense, which oftentimes when we see that sort of frat behavior in the United States, it's often to someone's detriment, to someone
Yes.
else's detriment.
He seems like a thoughtful, empathetic, caring person, broadly
hmm
speaking. Well, they're gonna go this trio of Liz and Christy they're gonna take a road trip from Broome, which is northwestern Australia,
Okay.
across the whatever the Great Northern High, whatever that's called,
Yeah.
that goes all the way to Cairns.
Yeah.
Is that how they say it? Cairns, um,
Spelled Cairn,
spelled
pronounced
Cairns.
Can. Yeah.
I'm gonna call it Cairns.
Karen's.
Cairns. Um, yeah, from Broome to Cairns, and
Okay.
they're gonna like stop and do hiking trails. They're gonna camp out. They're gonna
Camp
do a
out. Yeah, we're
thing.
sleeping in a camper van.
Yeah. So we've got it all mapped out. There's one of their first nights stopped. We have a ghost story moment. It's not a
I
ghost story, it's an
know.
alien ship moment, which and like, I don't know, let's talk about this like supernatural through line
Yeah.
throughout this
Yeah.
movie because I didn't think about Picnic at Hanging Rock, but you're dead on. There is a blip of supernatural
Yeah.
to
Just a
that movie.
whiff.
Just a whiff, but it's enough to like filter the way you see everything.
Yeah.
And here he tells a story basically about a man who stopped his car at night and saw lights
Hmm.
coming at him,
And he
thinking it
thinks
was.
it's something normal, thinks it's in a truck or a
Mhm.
car. And then he realizes it's floating 10 feet off the ground and zip off into the universe it goes.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of playing at the opening titles of like, you know, thousands of people disappear into the outback wilderness. Some of them are never heard from again. Already this is a bit of a ghost story. This is a bit of an urban legend we're telling
Hmm.
that has a kernel of truth to it.
Yeah.
I like honestly, we're in the age now where we're like UFOs or whatever the new acronym, the government is using for them. We're like, we kind of all know they're real, right? Like maybe not in the way we imagined or the way we've fictionalized them, but we're like, can we all like, yeah, they're. I think
There's some shit flying around
there's
out
some
there
shit
that's
flying around
yeah.
that is unexplained.
Yes. UAP, that's the new
That's it.
abbreviation, and I forget what it stands
And we
for
don't know.
already.
Maybe it's human, maybe it's not human, maybe it's terrestrial, extra unexplained.
Yes.
But there is kernel of truth to it.
Yeah. Next day, Liz is driving. She pulls them into the little town of Emu Creek, which is
No.
says last fuel for a while.
Hmm. And the second she makes that fucking turn off the asphalt, I'm like, no. But this brings up an interesting question. I'm like, how do you road trip across Australia? Like, where do you get your fucking gas? When
Spe-
it takes 6 days to cross this subcontinent, you know?
yeah. I forgot to clock how many kilometers it said till the next gas stop, but I think the sign did say
It's like
last
hundreds.
last fuel for blah 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 kilometers. Well, I mean, one way you do that is you carry a spare fuel tank.
Okay, sure.
So you do that. In the day and age of I mean, I guess they would have had MapQuest back then,
Sure.
but
Sure.
in the day and age where you don't have a map on your phone, you don't have Google Maps, you're not like knowing where every
You
fucking
have a
thing
map
is.
map. You have a paper map,
Yeah.
which
Um,
probably has the little, icons for gas or for
yeah.
food or for information.
Yep.
But just the vastness of it is so terrifying to me.
It is really terrifying.
This is why I could never be a desert gay. Like I could never be a Palm Springs gay.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Like
Palm
it,
Springs, you could at least like just nestle within Palm Springs and never go way
yeah,
out there.
but if you drive 20 minutes away, you're fucked,
Yeah,
you
just
know?
as long as you go west, you're fine.
Okay, that's true.
If you
Yeah.
head west from Palm Springs, you would never know that you were in the desert other than
Yeah.
the terrain, but you would never know you were in the off the grid part. You drive east from Palm Springs, that shit's on you.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's
I think
on
that's
you.
that's a difference of this sort of the environment is the first villain in the
Hmm.
film, in that, like, honestly, it'd suck if your car broke down.
Yep.
Like that's could be a horror movie in and of itself, even without, you know, Uncle Mick wielding a shotgun. Just the survival, like the terrain, surviving the terrain is already bad enough.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And also the this is where we're gonna meet some more people. In fact,
No.
actually, the people here aren't all bad. We're gonna meet Graham, who's the
Well, even Graham is fucking weird as fuck.
he's weird as fuck. He's just
Like
less
he's so
openly intimidating.
it's okay. So the interaction is Ben has taken out his little camcorder
Uh-huh.
and he's like, doing some sort of like, travel documentary kind of thing. And sort of person appears, like dude to pump his gas, who never says anything, just smiles the entire time. And not a mean smile, just almost a like you kind of feel that this is his defense mechanism to
Yeah.
live with these terrible, terrible people. Because later, when these horrible grease monkey dudes are saying the worst things, you can see him in the background, like going, "Oh God, you're scaring away my customers, man." But
Uh-huh.
still, he's trying to grin through it because he knows these dudes would fucking kill him or
Yeah.
beat the shit out of him if he says anything, and they're his only neighbors.
Yep. So, yeah, they start these men inside the diner, inside this gas station diner, start talking to Ben, being like, "We wanted to see if you and your girls would be interested in it. We wanted to see from you if your girls would be interested in a gangbang."
Uh-huh.
And Ben almost gets a fight, but
Yeah. Yeah.
de-escalates it with Graham helping a little bit, and it de-escalates. It just is it's just after the used auto shop in the
Yeah.
first scene, just kind of setting up that like everything outside of what you know, city kids,
Yeah.
is going to be a little scary and rough.
Yeah.
So they get to Wolf Creek Crater National Park in Australia, which is a very, very giant national park with a big crater,
Meteor crater.
meteorite crater sort of meteor crater thing. And yeah, they're gonna do a hiking trail.
Jeffrey,
Uh-huh. Yes, Cecil.
what's the end game here? Because I'm like, they pull up, and okay, granted, it's the only thing on the map for another 500 kilometers,
Right.
but there's no camping.
No.
So we're going to hike this 3 hour hike, and then they're just going to like drive down the highway and camp by the highway?
It's a very good question. It seems like they had all this mapped out and they had this scheduled to do
Hmm.
this hike, even though it's a rainy day in
Yeah,
the desert.
which is actually really interesting. Like that is something that just happened on set. Apparently, it had not rained in like 10 years.
Wow.
And while they were filming this, it just happened to rain. And the director's like, cool, I love it. Because it has this, like an eclipse, it has this otherworldly of like, it doesn't rain in the desert, but here it is.
That's
It's
so
cold
interesting.
and wet in the desert, which is not what you'd expect.
No. No, that's so interesting. I didn't even think about like how rare rain is there. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I know everyone is different in their likes and what they love to do, but
Hmm.
anytime somebody is like, want to go for a hike, I'm like, what's the end game here?
Yeah. And I mean, getting to
Yeah,
see a cool meteor, like one of the largest
totally.
meteorite craters in Australia, awesome.
I mean, that is the end game, right? I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Kind of go, oh, and then they have, and I think this is why we kind of have these characters that are presented as maybe different than other, other horror movie fodder. It kind of sparks like a larger existential debate, thoughts of like, why do you think this crater hit this one spot? Was it attracted to something here?
Yeah.
Was it just luck?
Yeah.
What do you think? What, like kind of a lot of that shit that you think about when you're in your teens and early 20s and you kind of look up at the stars, you're like, why are we here?
Uh-huh.
You
Uh-huh.
know, like the sort of intro to philosophy kind of questions that I think every person should have, usually has.
Real eyes. Real eyes. Real eyes, Cecil.
Oh,
Oh, let's think on that for a bit.
brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, they get Liz and Ben have a kissing moment by
I
themselves overlooking
know.
the
Their sort of
crater.
like secret crush on each other has been realized.
At the gas station, Christy was telling Ben like when we get to Cairns, I'm gonna find me I'm
Yeah.
gonna go find me a party boy to do
Yeah.
stuff with. In the meantime, you need to sort your shit out with Liz
Yeah.
because clearly there's something there. I don't know about your girlfriend situation, but figure it out, my friend.
Yeah. And if you hurt her, I'll fuck you up.
Yes.
Which is a pretty, again, it's a pretty, like, this is a pretty realistic, mature way of dealing with the complicated, messy friendships, situationships that people kind of have where you're like, I don't know, do I like you? Do I not? Or we're just in a car and you're kind of hot and I'm kind of hot. And,
Uh-huh.
but also like I have to smell your farts and listen to you,
Uh-huh.
you know, make weird noises in the back seat all day. What does this mean?
Back at the car, it won't start.
Yeah.
It just nothing's happening at
Like
all.
it dead. And they notice that their watches, only two of them have watches, and their analog watches
Uh-huh.
have stopped.
Yeah.
They're like, huh, that's weird. Both of ours. Again, like Picnic at Hanging Rock, I feel like there's maybe it's I think I feel like I'm speaking out of turn here, but is it has something to do with this like Australian Aboriginal dream time? Like when you go into the desert, time gets wibbly wobbly?
Hmm.
It seems like it must be part of the fabric, the like real like Freudian s- collective unconscious of the Australian continent to me.
I think the really smart, like, literary read I had on this movie was that I think he is going for these big literary questions in the
Mm,
screenplay here, because starting with the UFO story
mm.
immediately sends your mind into the cosmos. It immediately
Yeah,
sends your mind into the stars, into the vastness of the universe, into what you were just saying, these questions we ask ourselves when we're young, like, why did a thing select our little
yeah,
spot on Earth, this most uninhabited place? Why did it land here? What is so mystic about this place? And the Australian outback is a very mystical place.
yeah,
Like it evokes mysticism in so many, whether we're talking about the Aboriginal people of Australia, or whether we're just talking about a vast part of of a huge island
yeah,
that is desert, and desert evokes that too. I mean, there's just so much there, all the way up to the fucking eclipse and the
yeah,
watches stopping. There's a lot of cosmic play here that it's almost like you went through, like the band in Pussy Cake. You must have gone through some kind of
yeah,
warp
yeah,
vortex thing that landed you in a world that looks like your own,
yeah.
but it's
I
not
also
quite.
think it's really smart plot wise because that's an unusual thing that has happened. The watch has stopped and then the car stops.
Uh-huh.
So is it mysterious, mystical, this place? Is it Hanging Rock that it's the place that does it that is unexplainable? Or is there some dude out here stealing spark plugs? You know?
Yeah.
Is it a setup? Or is it unexplained? Or is it both?
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna go with both. It definitely is a setup in it, and also he couldn't have known about the watches, so that's
He couldn't have known about like I think there's
but he
there's
definitely fucked
two.
with their car. He definitely had to have fucked with their car.
Does he?
Well, we know that he's been tailing them,
That's true.
so
And we know this is his hunting ground.
yep,
This is where he finds his quarry.
yep.
And there's another setup that I think is really smart and interesting, which is the interaction at the gas station with the terribles
Huh.
is exactly what you think it is. It's like asshole douchebag, male chauvinist, just gross, horrible. And then all of a sudden, the next person from the outback you see seems so nice in comparison.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna meet Mick Taylor here. First off, before we meet Mick Taylor,
I mean, yeah,
they're stuck in this car, being like, "I guess we have to camp here until somebody shows up."
right?
Um, and obviously Christie is getting a little frustrated with Ben.
Yeah,
It's just like, you should have checked the car. He's like, I did. I got it fixed before
yeah.
we drove. It should have been fine. And then they see these headlights coming, and based
This
off
is
of
scary
his
enough.
previous story, they're like, is that a car? Is that an
Uh-huh.
alien? What is
Yeah.
happening to us?
And I mean, that's a real thing of like, as somebody who goes camping every so often, like that minute when you think you're alone in the woods and you see another light, you're like, oh shit, we are not alone.
Uh-huh.
It's probably a person, but that person, friend or foe, stranger danger.
Uh-huh. Well, it's very funny because in my mind, I was on their side being like, oh, you should fear headlights coming out. Like any
Yeah.
person in the middle of the night that meets you
Yeah.
out there, like,
What are they doing out here?
yeah, there's no reason for them to be here.
Yeah.
Um, but the way they're playing it, which I get, I'll give them the conceit in the screenplay of that they're still so scared from his campfire story the
Sure.
other night, which I'm like, I think unless you're high You're probably
Oh
not
my
like,
God,
is
right?
that an alien?
Oh my God, I actually have one of those stories.
Uh-huh.
I was out camping at this lake here in North Carolina, and so we're like sitting around the campfire, and we're all pretty high, and you know how you do, and this ghost boat just drifted by our campsite that was lit from the inside with no one in it. Like a little
Ooh.
rowboat that had like green, like almost like highlighter, like glow sticks
Yeah.
inside.
Oh God.
No one inside of it. Just drifted right by. We're like, did anybody order a ghost boat?
No, fuck you, ghost
Anyone?
boat. Get out of here. But they're delighted when it pulls up and it's a truck. And out
Hmm.
pops Mick Taylor with his big, wide-brimmed, sort of Australia, like fedora-ish sort of hat.
Yeah, like he might as well have the corks hanging from the thing to get the flies away.
Yeah,
He's got the like big workman suspenders and the like flannel.
yeah. And he's very Crocodile Dundee. He's very,
Hmm.
I actually thought of Steve Irwin. He's very
Yeah,
Steve Irwin. Like, he's just, he's bumpkiny, but
but he's
but in a
more
charming way.
Falstaffian, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, and he's the type of like he's a much more accessible bloke, right?
Yeah,
He's a much more accessible ruffian.
yeah,
And he knows how to say things in a way that builds your trust in him. You like
yeah.
him right away. And he's like, oh, bad news is your car's busted. He names what's wrong with it, something with the coil. And he's like, the good news is I work on cars. I can fix it, but bad news, it's at my place. So your two options. Uh, tow you back to my place, which is south of
South,
here,
yeah.
and they're wanting to go north. Uh, probably get it fixed by the morning, and you'd be on your way, or spend the night here.
You can wait until somebody else comes around. And honestly, I'm like, uh, it's an impossible choice.
It is. I mean, in general, I fully get this choice to go with him because you just don't know
Yeah.
what else to do, and it's scary to be like. We've already set up that they're already kind of scared of the dark from
Hmm.
just what a day, man. It
It's
rained in the
there's
desert.
yeah,
Watches stopped working. Cars stopped working. Headlights came after we talked about
yeah,
alien spacecraft. I'm like, just get me out of here. I just want to be
yeah,
on the road.
yeah. And the option, if you say, no, thank you, sir, we'll manage it. It's what, like a day's walk to like how long would it be to walk back to Emu Creek?
Yeah. Yeah. I got to think it would be a while.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's a lot. And also, knowing where this movie is going to go, I don't think staying there would have saved them either.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
He would have just
He's,
circled back for them and
yep. He would have
found a
found
way to
another
pick
way
them
to
off
get them.
one by one.
Yep. So you could have made two different movies with the
Yeah.
same results. Just one
Yeah.
is hunting kids in the woods, and one is
Hmm.
just dragging them back to your place. So, fine, we're gonna do it. There's a moment where he's like, Ben asks Mick, just curious, how much would this cost to have you fix it? He's like, I'm not gonna charge you, you stupid bastard. It's not Pitt
I
Street, mate.
know. I know. He's
I
like,
got
don't
that. I
insult
remember
me.
Pitt Street from Sydney. Anyways.
Oh, he's like, don't insult me. I wouldn't charge you. This is how we do. We take care of each other out here in the outback.
Hmm. Which is a story they want to hear. I don't know
Uh-huh,
if that's true,
exactly.
but it doesn't sound true from my comfort of a couch watching this as a film.
Sure.
But
But it's also echoed like later when we get to the impossibly frustrating scene of going through the footage
yeah,
of past hunted.
hmm,
There's like a dad talking to his daughter, like, look, honey, there are nice people out here. There are good Samaritans in the world. There are people willing to help. And honestly, we talked about road trips. When I did that Great American or the Great River Road road trip, which was like from New Orleans up to like the headwaters of the Mississippi, there was one day I pulled my car off to look at a placard and some dude drove up And he's like, "Hey, do you need help?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm just looking at this sign." He's like, "Oh, sorry, I just thought you were in need of help."
Hmm,
Then drove away.
so
Like
nice.
there is that kind of dichotomy that like when you're alone in your environment, you do kind of rely on, when you see other people, you do have to be like, "Oh shit, do you need help?" Because chances are you've needed help and no one has come along.
Yeah, yeah.
The quality of the people that comes along is really what's in doubt.
Hmm. So this movie, if we use the roller coaster analogy, actually the first half of this movie isn't the roller coaster, it's the amusement park you've entered.
That's
So the
it.
first half of the movie is I've gotten some cotton candy.
Funnel
I've run into
cake.
some nasty kids that I hate, some bad parents and
Yeah.
tourists. There's some people there. You're like, "Ugh, leave me alone." But you're so excited. Everything is full of promise. And this we are now at the clack, 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 clack,
Yeah.
clack, clack, clack moment of it because he takes
Uh,
them back to his place. Hey, I've got a barrel of rainwater there, fresh rainwater. You look like you're parched. Have some water. I'm just
uh-huh.
going to have this bottled beer.
I know. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And he tells them, Mick tells them he used to be a head shooter for vermin and
Oh
such.
no. The glee with which he talks about the death of animals, I'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, can you excuse me just one moment?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, can we circle up over here?
Yeah.
He really loves talking about dogs being beheaded and killing pigs and a little too much glee.
Yeah. He's got a lot of glee for all of these things. And honestly, like growing up in Texas, like there was always, whether it was my stepdad or his friends or somebody that would be like, they would have not necessarily a story about vermin hunting like
Hmm.
him,
Hmm.
but they would tell stories about getting into bar fights and just the nastiest shit that would go on in these things.
Yeah.
And some of them were the worst. Like they're
Yeah.
horrifying stories about why they're even having a fight. The fact that like girlfriends would get involved and then they
Oh,
would be,
yeah.
and just
Yeah.
like, I remember hearing awful stories from older men when I was younger. And you would just kind of laugh because you're like, wow, I don't know anyone like this.
Yeah.
This is what an amazing story because you're like, you're a real person who did these real things that I would never experience
Yeah.
because
Like,
I'm going to go to fucking college and get a job that allows me to
I would
record
never.
record
Pearls clutched.
podcasts with my friend Cecil,
Yes,
but still,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. It's also the way he evades so many questions. Where do you live? Oh, around. What do you do? Oh, stuff.
Uh-huh. This is it's like the Gary Gregg question from White Lotus of like, oh, what did you do when you lived in the States?
This and that.
This and that. Did some
Oh,
jobs.
yeah, some odd jobs.
Don't look too
Importing,
much into it.
exporting.
Uh-huh. So a couple of moments here. One, he kind of describes he describes in detail the way he had to kill certain animals. Killing roos was different than killing the wild boars, the pigs. Because he was like, they were the worst. Like you'd shoot them and then get down on top of them and shoot them or stab them
Yeah.
again. And you had to get real close to them, and they could take your hand clean off. I once saw a pig bite a pit bull's head clean off. Like all of this detail, it's so gross.
Yeah.
Ben says, you must love the freedom of living out here. And he
Oh,
said,
God.
Nick just glares at him.
Yeah, just the long, uncomfortable stare.
Uh-huh. What do you actually do now? I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. Oh, funny old line.
Uh,
Ben also makes a crack about, he brings up Crocodile Dundee
oh, yeah.
and kind of says it to Mick, as in like
You're a
you
real
must be
man. You're a
real
man's man.
The kind of man who says that's not a knife, this is a knife. And by the way, as a quick aside, I did a play for the Neo Futurists many years back called Semiotic Dundee. And it was one of the first moments where I realized I'm way older than our audience.
Ah, yes.
But I did a play called Semiotic Dundee, and all it was I held up a Rorschach test to the audience and I said, that's how I said that. Oh, I just said to the audience, that's not a knife. Held up a Rorschach test and I said, that's a knife. And it would just, it's not a hilarious joke, even if you know the reference. But I was like, oh, I thought at first people were just like, I don't know what semiotics is. But I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, no, no, these are all kids born in the late
If
90s,
it's not been made a
2000s.
meme, they don't.
They know what a semiotic is. They don't know what a crocodile Dundee
Yes,
is.
exactly.
That's what's happening. Anyway, so use that hilarious joke at your dinner parties,
Have
whatever.
fun.
Yeah, you guys have fun with it. It was awesome. It was the best
Or,
joke I've ever
go with
written.
the Simpsons version. That's not a knife.
Oh yeah,
That's a
that's on.
spoon.
Oh, I see you've played Knifey Spoony before.
Yeah. And one
Yeah.
of the other things he mentions is that he would mostly listen, you have to do, get in and kill a bunch of animals. And oftentimes the way you do that is with poison. You just drug them, poison them. And I'm like,
hmm
oh no.
hmm He also says, Christy or Liz says, you don't still have to kill kangaroos, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, you have to. I'm doing it. We're doing us all a favor. Roos are everywhere now, kind of like tourists.
Uh-huh. Uncomfortable,
hmm
uncomfortable. You're like, implications that
Yeah.
tourists deserve to be killed or need to be killed.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's all kind of a fun time, but now the filmmakers have been really setting the tone for like bad things are going to happen. I know
Uh-huh.
this looks fun now. It's never let us know that anything's going to be fine, but here's the moment where you're like, we are over laughing at everything and
Yeah.
things are about to go very bad. We are cresting the first hill
Yeah.
of our roller coaster.
It's as soon as Liz is like getting in her sleeping bag and she's really tired and she's like, "Hey, move the camp or move the cooler away from the fire, Ben." And Ben is like so conked out in his chair, he doesn't even respond. I'm like, "Oh, they're all drugged."
Yeah. Liz wakes up bound and gagged in a
Oh,
shed.
here we go.
That's literally what I wrote on my next line on my notes. Here we go. She looks out the window of the shed. Her friends are gone. She uses a glass shard to cut the plastic restraints. He doesn't do a great job of restraining Ben or Liz. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, restraining them in a way that you're going to leave them alone for as long as you've left
right.
them alone.
Well, and I think that's what makes this character very scary is his hubris,
Yes.
is his like, I'm in my element now. You're just quarry.
Yeah.
You're just a stupid animal. I could leave you alone for hours and not have to worry about you.
Yeah. Yeah. You say quarry, and he literally is living in a mine. Like
Yes, oh,
this is
that's
an
true.
old mining site.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And one of the things he talks about is like, oh, they're like, where are we? And they're like, oh, this place is like one of thousands of places spread across the outback that just the dust came and covered up and everyone left. Like kind of like our ghost town, Western
Yeah.
ghost town mythos. But it also kind of implies that this dude just goes from like uninhabited place, like he might have more than one of these.
Uh-huh.
Or even at the end of the movie when he has to disappear from this one, but it's not hard to find another one.
Yeah. So she cuts herself free and she she slips out, goes towards the car. Their car is completely disassembled. Like
Disassembled.
the entire engine is out in
Yeah.
parts, laid out. So
Um,
that's a big oh fuck.
Ben's one of the sleeping bags is covered in blood.
Uh-huh.
Okay, not good.
She does. Okay, so smart move. She puts on her shoes and is like,
Yes,
I'm gonna just
thank
run now.
God.
Grab shoes, I'm fucking
Yep.
out.
Yeah.
Everyone else can figure this shit out, but then Christy
Yep.
screams.
Yep.
Shit, I have to go back. I have to go back and save the cat,
Hmm.
don't I? I have to
Yeah.
go. So she goes to check this shit out and peers inside and sees inside another one of these corrugated metal shed places. There's Christy tied up to a pole.
And she's much more battered than Liz.
She is all bloodied.
Yeah.
Mick is taunting her with a rifle.
Yep.
pointing it at her as she's screaming, and then he just shouts bang, and she gets startled. So he's psychologically torturing
Yeah.
her.
And she's like, haha, I had the safety on. But the safety's off now. What could happen?
Uh, he says things that directly tells us that he has sexually assaulted her
Yeah.
already, and then he says, we're gonna off with your pinky. We hear him say off stage.
Yeah.
So Liz decides to go start a scene.
Just make a distraction.
Yeah. She
This
uses
is a pretty good one.
It's pretty good. She uses a propane canister
Yeah.
and a lighter and some fuel and
Sets that car on fire.
blows up that propane canister, which
Yep.
sends him running out there, which gives her time to run back inside and untie Christy.
Yep.
And then she hides just in time. Or no, she doesn't untie her. She just is trying to
Yeah.
calm her down, get her
She's
focused.
trying to calm her down. And
Like, you have to
she,
shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Christy, like for the rest of the movie, Christy is going to be a liability at worst.
Yeah.
And like kind of like she's a bit cracked. Like,
Yeah. She's broken.
which
Yeah.
is like absolutely understandable, but also in a horror movie, you're just like, oh no.
Yeah. This is a thing where, this is an interesting variation on the Scream Queen, because she's not a Scream Queen, like in the classic sense. It's actually taking some time, rather than women just scream all the time for no good reason in a horror film, to this movie has a very strong, and this actor has a very strong understanding as to why she behaves irrationally, because it's not fully irrational because of the trauma
Right.
she's just gone through.
Yeah.
And maybe suggests that there might have been previous instances in her life. I mean,
Interesting.
the movie doesn't directly say that at all, but there's a humanity to why she makes the choices she makes, which I find really refreshing given the time this movie was made.
Sure.
So,
I mean, it's also like Christy has seen the worst of it. I mean, can we talk about his Mick's previous bride?
because we're about to see her nailed to the wall.
Like, I thought it was Ben at first.
Yeah.
But then he's like, no, that was my previous girlfriend, but then she lost her head. Ha 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 ha.
Mm-hmm. This is like when we did American Psycho, Mary Herron kind of doesn't show you a whole lot in that movie. It's all suggestion. There's a moment where we see a severed head in his freezer or whatever, but we don't see the mutilated bodies that happen in the novel version of American Psycho. Wolf Creek is like, well, if they're going to leave that out of American Psycho, we'll just put that here.
We're going to put all of that in.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it.
And we see a couple of corpses that have been through a lot.
Yeah. Now, this is where I'm like, okay, great. Hide until an opportune moment, then strike. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Liz does this. She, Mick goes out. He's trying to put out the fire. He does kind of glance over at the shed. So he's like, I wonder if this is, I got to deal with this.
Yeah.
I'll deal with her later.
Mm-hmm.
And Liz gets the rifle. And again, it's like, you leave her alone, mister. You're bad. You're very bad. Don't touch her. Shaking and quivering. And he's like, what are you going to do with that? Like, they even says, it's like, a gun in the wrong hands is a dangerous thing.
And he tells her it's not loaded, but yet he doesn't make any move toward her, which
Right.
says it's loaded.
Yeah.
But
But she gets off a shot. She gets off a shot. It is not a well-aimed shot, but it grazes his neck. And he just sort of faints.
Yeah.
And this is the part that made me so mad.
Mm-hmm.
She takes the back of the rifle and just like bangs him on the back.
Yeah.
Like almost like you brute, you brute, you brute. Like the most ineffectual. And I'm like, there is a 12-inch knife right there.
You got a goddamn Bowie knife sitting on the ground. That is a fucking Rambo blade you could be
Right.
using to
There's
remove his
I've seen
head.
we've seen crossbows, we've seen like finish the job. And I think this is the thing of like when characters that don't know they're in life or death situations don't behave appropriately.
Yeah.
You know, they bring a spoon to a gunfight, you
Yep.
know? And that's where I get, and I think this is where the difference of 20 years of filmmaking and horror movie, like the horror as a genre has, the thriller has stepped up its game
Hmm.
because now we have characters that, for like, oh, either it's the revenge tragedy reversed,
Uh-huh.
you know, Hunter be hunted. We see a lot of those these days, or it is much more we load our protagonists with I don't know, they were in the Israeli army. They you know,
Uh-huh.
they ha make choices or have a skill set that the you know, the predator wouldn't expect them to have
Yes.
because of movies like Wolf Creek where we go, this is just this is terrible to watch.
Yeah.
Like the least bad of shit options.
Hmm. And this is, I agree with you. I think this scene is a failure of editing, maybe, because I think it mostly, like I said at the beginning, like it mostly shows characters making a rational choice
Yeah.
given the options at hand. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of times in a movie about being hunted or
Hmm.
stalked by a killer, the constant question is, what would I do? What is the right choice?
Right.
How would you do this? In the 1970s, when we're making Chainsaw Massacre,
Hmm.
like everybody makes horrible choices.
Yeah.
And by 2005, we have a movie being made with people making seemingly rational choices. But you're totally right. To me, it's the hitting him on the back with the butt of the rifle.
Yeah.
I think once he drops, he's already cut Christie loose. So in my thought, I think the edit here is once he drops, um, grab Christie and run.
Yeah.
Like just again,
Like don't even look back at
don't even
what
look
he's
back.
done. Yeah.
It's like in the movie Fresh, right? Like
Yeah.
she doesn't stop to knife him to death.
Right.
But it also doesn't allow you a lot of time to think about
To
that
think about it. Yeah.
because that's a thing where I'm like 30 seconds outside of that building, you're like, fuck, I should have knifed him, but we gotta
Yeah. Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. What if he comes after us?
Yeah.
But he's lying on the ground. He'll never get up again.
But again, it still is it's
Let's
so
get into the truck.
contrived,
Oh no,
but
there's
it's
no
fun.
keys. We
Yeah.
have to go back.
Yeah.
And now I have to fiddle in his jean pockets of a
Yeah.
man that I don't know if he's dead or not.
Yeah. To use the roller coaster analogy again, the reason why I love it so much for horror, it's not just about the excitement, it's about how the script has to turn in ways that don't make like why did the roller coaster just turn left here?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
dumb. We don't
Yeah.
need to go left. I need to go back to the cotton
Yeah.
candy stand.
But
It
this is
has
the
to
way
go
you're
left
going.
because it's got to get to the loop de loop now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's on a fixed track to get you to all of the thrills. And get in the truck. Shit, there's no keys. We got to go back. I've got to search his dead body for keys,
Yeah.
which I
She
find
gets
the
the keys.
keys.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there he is, standing in
Oh,
the garage door with a shotgun.
and then it's the thrill of put the truck in the put it in the thing, put it in drive, put it in reverse. And it's again, it's the ambiguous like, oh, you drove the truck into the corrugated murder shed
Uh huh.
and it halfway fell apart, but you don't see him anywhere.
Nope.
I was like, is he if he's on that goddamn truck? That was my thought, is that like
Yes.
he gets into the back.
Yeah.
So they're going to drive away and he's just going to be like, boop. No, we're going to get that later on.
We are.
But she does. Hits it in reverse. And man, I got to say, like, she manipulates that truck very well.
She does.
Like, because I was like, this is good. Like, you're driving like a crazy person, trying to get away from a dude on foot. You're going to break an axle if you
Yeah.
hit a pothole the wrong way.
Uh huh.
And sure enough, she gets away, and it's implied it's not far, like maybe a 5-minute drive, like a pretty close drive.
Hmm.
And they reach the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
this is smart. What they do, I would have literally just driven the opposite way. Like I would have just, like logically I'd be like, "Oh, we can't go that way. Go the other way."
Hmm.
But this is a pretty interesting gambit, which is put the car in neutral, push it off the edge, so he thinks that they have driven off the cliff and he thinks they're dead.
Uh-huh.
Where this breaks down
Uh-huh.
is like, let's climb down 5 feet
Yeah, no.
and be real quiet for an unknown period of time
Uh-huh.
with your friend Christy, who is not doing well.
This is a moment wherein, as a basketball fan, sometimes I will watch my team. The point guard just holds the ball and holds the ball and holds the ball. I'm like, run the offense, run the
Yeah.
offense. Also,
Yeah, yeah,
run the
yeah.
clock, run the offense, run the
Yeah,
clock.
yeah, yeah.
You got to lead to it, and they will dribble the ball for only 8 seconds and then jack up a 3-point shot from near the logo. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you doing? And then it goes in, and then you go
Yeah.
nuts. And this is a moment where they make the dumbest fucking choice to hide on the edge of the cliff, five
Like it
feet down.
seems smart, but
But it works.
It's risky. It's
Yes.
really risky, but
Really
it does.
risky.
It like, and there's kind of a oh no moment in which gravel tumbles and he kind of like spins his flashlight near them, but he doesn't see anything, and he goes down. Now this is the thing. He has taken the keys to the second car, so they can't
Yes.
drive that away.
Huh?
And they're like, well, let's run back. I'm like, girl, you put that car in neutral.
Yeah.
You wait until he is down and investigate, and then you push that car after him. And at the very least, you've now evened the playing field. You're both on foot.
Yes.
And in best case, you hit him with a fucking car.
Yeah.
But no,
No.
off
Or-
into the wilderness they go.
Yeah. So, and I think by the end of the movie, I realized it didn't matter what they were gonna do
No.
because the feeling that you have about Mick, at least that I had about him by the end of the film, is he is an inevitability.
Yeah.
It's just that this should happen to you,
Yeah.
and there really is nothing that could have been done or that you could have done elsewise about it.
It's like when you're in a city and there's like people out playing, have like chess boards set up, and you're
Uh-huh.
like, I've played chess a few times.
Oh, this old man, he's not gonna know shit.
Oh.
Old people don't know nothing.
No. And you realize you've been played.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is you've been played by somebody with a smile on their face because they're so like they have seen a million of you come through here, make the exact same assumption.
Uh-huh.
And they're like,
So
hey, do you want to make this interesting? Do you want to put a little money on it? You're like, well, I've got $50.
Oh my God. So they get free. They go hide in the brush. Christy or Liz tells Christy, okay, you got to wait here.
Oh no.
Okay, again, we're going to play with the horror trope of let's split up. However,
Yeah.
I do like the direct take on this that Liz has, which is you're in no mood.
Yeah.
We have to get one of his cars. I know
Yeah.
I've got a ring of keys. I know he has more cars.
Yeah.
We have to get one of them. We have to. I move faster without you.
Yeah.
So just shut up, be quiet. If I'm not back in 5 minutes, just go this way, she points, and just don't stop. And I'm like, that's as good a rationale
That's as good as
any.
it gets. That's it.
The only other thing I could think of is you and I are both going to head that way right now. Just we're going to do
Yeah.
it on foot.
Yeah.
But as you can see in the daylight, there's not a lot of places to hide.
That's it. And
It is-
yeah. And again, he knows the terrain. You do not.
Uh-huh.
There's nowhere to hide. This isn't a forest.
No.
This isn't, like you can be seen from miles away, as we will learn later, and somebody with a rifle with a scope
Oh, so good.
is more than enough.
Yeah.
And one of your friends is like, again, it's where like which of these two terrible options?
Yeah, you do have that feeling of gotta say you gotta go back for the cat. I mean, that's the thing.
It's
Yeah.
how she goes back for the cat. This is where I was like, listen, I was with you. You made some good moves. You made some smart moves. But the let's stop to investigate shit, I was literally like, sense of urgency.
Yes.
Sense of urgency. She's like, oh, look, here's a room in which he's meticulously cataloged all of the belongings of of his killings. We've
Uh-huh.
got sleeping bags, we've got passports, we've got, here's, oh, here's some camcorders. Let's watch one.
This is that
Let's watch another. Oh, this is ours.
yeah. Yeah, this is there are moments in horror films where you watch what the characters are doing and it makes you mad, and then there are moments when you watch the same type of thing in a horror movie and you realize it's the writer that had to do this. It's the
Yeah, they did.
filmmaker
Because they
that
had to get the plot point that he followed them from the beginning.
and that he's done this to many people.
Yeah.
But you could convey done this to many people with just the bulletin board she sees in that
Right.
garage.
There's like an old, I want to say like Taoist saying, it's like, if you can't say it, point at it, but don't confuse your finger for the thing you're pointing at.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you can like if she had just like walked through this really very cool, intricately designed, a lot of psychology behind this, but we don't need her picking it up like she's at a fucking Sunday garage sale.
No.
It can exist, but don't confuse it existing for being the point.
I fully agree because it's I don't think it's that important to the story because we get it.
Yeah,
And I think also in the day and age of especially in the day and age of streaming,
sure,
wherein most people are going to watch a movie on demand,
sure, sure.
I think it would be way better to have never seen his camcorder footage in this moment. And if you watch that movie again, the astute viewer
Oh, I
will
see.
see
Yeah,
Mick's truck in the
yeah,
background.
yeah. The thing that warrants, like when people say it warrants a second viewing,
Hmm.
uh,
I think you could have just done that one simple thing.
yeah,
And I think that's so much more profound because it's a thing you discover on
yeah,
your own.
yeah,
To
yeah,
have
yeah.
it spelled out
Then
for
have
you
it pointed out. Don't confuse your finger for the thing.
and pointed out to you for like a good 8 minutes
I
of
know.
like she's not
Oh,
even in a car by the time Christy is like,
oh
fuck this
no.
shit, I'm out.
Because, well, first thing she does when she gets back is she goes to the murder shed.
Uh-huh.
And we see her trying to fit bullets to a gun. Understandable. Her hands are shaky. This is where it's like, it's that fumbling with the keys kind of feeling where you're like,
Yeah.
normal. Like, this is absolutely the frustration of, I don't fucking know, diddly squat about guns. But she eventually puts some bullets into a gun, a very large, kind of dirty, hairy hand cannon of a
Uh-huh.
pistol. She's got a flashlight, she's got a gun. And she decides, you know what? What's down in this hole? I see a chain that leads down into a hole. Are there any cars in that hole? No.
No.
Move the fuck on. Oh no, I dropped my gun. Well,
Yeah.
now I've got to climb down into this hole. Oh no, it's a murder hole. Corpses everywhere. She's flipping out. I'm like, yeah, this is terrible, but at least, and she leaves without the gun. Sense of urgency, sense of purpose, sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Are there cars in that hole? No, move on.
Yeah.
Are there cars in the library of victims? No, move on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, when this movie's characters make such shitty decisions, it is like most cases, it's in service of trying to say something in exposition or
Yeah,
plot or revelatory, and It's such a bummer because I think for the most part they do good decisions, and I was very impressed until
Yeah,
I wasn't. And this whole sequence, I'm like, we don't need any of this. I have already seen what he's done to other people.
right.
You just show me a look at that billboard or the bulletin board,
And we can
and
infer.
we fully get the people he's fucked
And
with.
I think the problem is that this movie at its best is at its best when it's action oriented and it's these moments of like, oh, but look, backstory. We're like, not necessary right now.
No,
This is
no.
like the adrenaline is pumping. You've got us going. You can't let it slack.
I think that because the film has a found footage look to it, it has that found footage urgency to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But I just don't know any other way that they could have conveyed this stuff if he really wanted to show us this footage of these other families and things like that
Sure.
than just to do cutaways. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's
Like
it.
just to say like, hey, as the authorial voice, I'm just
Well, I
gonna
mean,
take a
what
break.
if,
Here's 10 minutes about this other family that you're gonna
well,
see.
like, what if it was on a television screen that was already playing?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's happening, it's being shown, but the character doesn't have to be like, oh, what's this? Let me
Yeah.
investigate, like a fucking Scooby-Doo mystery.
I know. And I love a procedural horror. This is not the time for it.
No.
Yeah.
And
Um,
even when she gets into the room filled with cars, she looks like she is fucking at a used car lot, just ambling around,
uh-huh.
slow as can be.
Just get in one nearest the door.
Yeah.
Um,
Find the key because that's going to be the thing. You've got a handful of keys. You've got a hand. Like I was like, he's been clearly been doing this for a long time.
yeah.
Do these cars have gas? Has he dismantled any of these? Like look under the hood. Like these cars might not even have fucking engines in them.
Yeah.
But luckily, the car she gets in works.
Yeah.
Unluckily,
Uh-huh.
in the amount of time she was Nancy Drewing the fuck out of this man's life story,
Mm-hmm.
he has gotten into the back of the car and stabs her in the spine.
Yep.
So good news, bad news.
Yep. And yeah. She in the process she had found a bag of mixed stuff, or I'm sorry, of Ben's stuff,
Mhm.
including his camcorder, but she also found his like little utility knife, his little
Yes.
Swiss Army knife.
Oh my God, yes.
And then so we get the call back of she draws that knife because it's the only thing she knows to do. And you know, at this point she's just been stabbed in the back, but
yeah,
she's not severed yet. And
yeah, yeah.
he's like your mate said before, that's not a knife. This is a knife. And he draws his giant Bowie knife. He swipes it at her. Defense move with her hand, gets her fingers sliced
She's
off.
been defingerstrated.
Yep.
Or as I like to call them, flingers.
Oh.
That's where you fling your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call like when I get the dropsies, like when you know, like when you bumble and you like pick up something and you like your fingers just don't work. I'm like, I'll call them flingers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or like you like fling a dish while
Yep.
drying them or something. Yeah, she's got a case of the flingers.
She does have she's lost her flingers, and he picks her up, headbutts her, and says that's for wrecking my truck.
I know. And see, this is the like, I think a lot of the revenge porn tragedy, you know, intense movies, it is that like watching the hunter or watching the hunted get points in and the hunter gets someone like, you're just supposed to scream and be raped and be killed at my pleasure. Like that's where I think a lot of movies since this have kind of found it's the tennis match,
Uh-huh.
the back and forth.
Yeah.
This movie is just fourth.
Yeah, I mean it has a little bit of back and forth because if you feel like these people are gonna get away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the odds are so fucking stacked in their against their favor.
Yeah.
You never do feel like you're going to get away.
no.
Which is why we have a whole character who's not been seen in 35, 40 minutes.
I know. I think when this movie gets into the action of this killer and what he's doing to people, it's got some really great moments. Like the sniper moment on the road is incredible. That we're about to get to, but
I kind of love
it loses the thread.
Chris Cecil's second act. That I'm like, kind of like there's nothing you can do here.
No. And that's really, really good. I think it loses the thread because he found it so important to do this exposition
Yeah.
dump that we didn't need. And I would have rather have watched. I already know he's bad.
Yeah.
So I don't, and I can infer that he's done this to lots of people.
Methodically bad.
And,
Yes.
and that he needed, that we didn't need to know that he's been tailing them because I think he does such a, this movie does such a great job of establishing that he is an inevitability.
Yeah.
Like he probably, without telling us, he probably has been following them.
Yeah.
But he's going to pick her up. He's going to pick her up and he's going to tell her it's time for head on a stick.
Oh.
And he sticks the knife right into her spine and
And he
twists
says
it.
it's something that that they would do in the Vietnam War when they didn't want to kill somebody because they needed to get information from them, but they don't want them to run away.
Yeah. And it's to paralyze you, basically, neck
Yeah.
down. Now you're head on a stick. And that's what he does.
And
to
that's
Liz.
her death is not even a death, which is like even worse.
Yeah, she's going to get the worst of all of it.
Yeah.
So
Let's check in on Christy.
okay, so she makes it into the morning. She makes it to the main road.
She kind of like she passes out, she wakes up, unknown amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Liz is back. Run.
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, no shoes, no water,
Yeah.
no food, unknown territory.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
kind of
let's
the
see.
best you can do. You can,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would rather die of exposure than
Yeah.
die at his hands because
Yeah. At the very least, you're escaping. And sure enough, she makes it to a road.
yeah. And she sees a car coming. I'm like, no, do not flag down a car, Christy.
Again, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre gambit. We're like, oh, help has arrived.
Mm-mm.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. What was that? House of a Thousand Corpses where they,
Yes. Yeah.
So this nice looking old man pulls up and I'm like, oh, okay, great.
Okay, this seems good. And he's getting like, he goes into the trunk,
He's
he
like,
brings out a blanket. And
He's too
like
nice. He's like, here, get in.
thermos.
I've got a blanket and a thermos in the back. No, just drive, my man.
Mhm.
Just drive.
Well, it's when you hear that whizzing sound and
Mm-hmm.
his coffee starts pouring out of his thermos from two little holes.
Oh, what a great visual.
I know.
So scary. And then there's another shot, and when the camera looks back, it is just blood splattered on the back of the car, and he is dropped. Christy,
like, what's going on out there?
oh God. And it takes her a while to figure out that the keys are in the hatchback. She gets the keys, she's trying to run away, and we can already see Mick driving up in his muscle car, his like Mad Max muscle car. And he chases after her. He pulls up next to her, starts making faces at her like, oh, it's you. We know each other. What's happening? And she runs him off the road.
And again, it's that thing like the look, the audacity on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And like Christy's celebrating. I think we're all just like, at this point, I'm kind of like, Jesus, finally.
Mm-hmm.
Fight back.
Mm-hmm.
Because like when he tees up and he's in a muscle car and she's in like a Datsun.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You can't outrun him.
No.
You know what you do then? You swing the car around and you're like, fucking buckle your seatbelt.
Yeah.
Head on. Like, we're going to duel this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, you're in a duel.
Yeah.
We're going to have to play a game of chicken. You can't outrun him, but you can cause damage.
Yeah.
And if you can cause enough damage, you might get away.
Yeah. Or at least go out on your own terms, you know?
Right.
I don't know. The only thing I could think of was obviously she's flooring it. She's cackling. She's laughing too early. Do not celebrate until you are in the end zone.
Yeah.
Do not taunt the other players with the ball at the 7-yard line. Do not do it. And she's driving away, not realizing. Remember the man who told you when you first met him that he was a sharpshooter?
Right. That is a long range rifle.
Uh-huh. and how he just murdered a man from
Yeah.
half a mile away.
Yeah.
My thought was you do the crocodile run, which is when you're running from a alligator or crocodile, you run in a zigzag pattern.
Oh yeah, you
I
gotta
don't know
weave.
if
Yeah.
that's true. I grew up learning that. Don't know
Oh,
if that's
it's the
true.
yeah. I mean,
But
you gotta weave.
I would have just been zigzagging a little bit
Yeah.
and just to make it a little harder to get an even shot.
I know, but even still, like you're in a car.
What are you gonna do?
Like there's all sorts of like he can shoot you, he can shoot the wheels, which is what he does. He can shoot the
Yeah,
engine. It's pretty much
you're
a
you're
and
you're still a very good chance of getting fucked here. And
this car crash is actually quite excellent.
yeah,
Like it's because it's like it spins off the road and like you can tell that they kind of like just tied the gas pedal down.
uh-huh,
So it's like kind of like revs itself into a ditch,
yeah,
flips like just like a complete 360,
yep.
lands on it. It's a good
It
car
looks
crash.
very realistic. It looks like a car losing control and then
It's
crashing
not your
off the median.
70s ball of fire.
No, I think it's a really, really natural, normal looking car crash.
No,
All natural, like
all
nature
natural,
intended cars to crash.
all natty.
All natty. So, yeah, I just wrote
And
well
she,
shit on my
yeah,
notes, and she starts trying to crawl away. Next thing is we get a wide shot of her crawling away from him, and he just shoots her in the back and then walks up to her and shoots her one more, presumably in the head.
yeah.
Just
Again,
like
it's like
described the way he killed Vermin.
yeah. And then he kind of looks around and he's like, evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Next shot is um, the old man's in the trunk. She's being put in the trunk. Car lit on fire. No more evidence.
No more evidence. And yeah, then he's done and he can move on about his next kill. But I think that Christie had the best. She had the best, or she had the better arc. I mean,
Yeah,
my thought was, if I'm gonna die here, I just want to die quickly.
that's true.
And she died. She died like making a run for it.
Yeah, she gave him enough of a chase that by the time he actually caught her, he's kind of done.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't need to taunt her anymore. He just shoots her,
Yeah.
which you're like, hey, execution style, at least it's quick.
Yep.
And then there's Ben. Poor Christ figure Ben.
Ben has been crucified.
Uh-huh.
He is next to another man who has been crucified who is deceased.
Yeah, who is missing the lower half of his body from the pelvic bone down.
Correct.
Because there's like 2 cages of very angry Rottweiler dogs.
Uh-huh.
And presumably this is what he does with the men, is just feed them to his dogs.
Right.
Now, as soon as I saw dogs, I was like, we've not heard dogs this entire movie.
No, that's
But
true.
it kind of makes sense because Ben is actually inside the mine.
Oh, okay.
He's
yes.
like in the mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'll give it a pass. Because I think this is one of those things that like what made the tick 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 of the roller coaster, like when Liz wakes up and she realizes she has to go back because she hears Christy screaming, is the like, and I think this is actually, you mentioned House of a Thousand Corpses. This is kind of what House of a Thousand Corpses does so well, is that it leads us through this haunted house of terror.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish there had kind of been more of that.
Yeah.
Of the like having to, you know, if they had known Ben was out there, if they had known Christy, you know, and it's more of a like, I have to find my friend before I can escape. And going through room after room after room had revealed more layers of the onion of who this killer is, rather than like a trip to the library.
Yeah.
A trip to the killer library.
Yeah.
But Ben, oh God, this is brutal. This is not for the squeamish. So he's been crucified on nails that don't have heads on them. So he just, you know, he just like,
He's got to slide his arms there through his wrists.
yeah.
He's just got to slide his arms off of those things.
And he's kind of, that's it.
Yeah. I wanted more of Ben's escape here, and I wanted it to be woven between these three.
Right.
Just, I think that makes for a more compelling movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the real sin of this movie, I think where it loses the plot, quite literally, is the horror movie library scene. Like, what it
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it threw everything out of whack. But I think
Well, because
your
it's
solution of
it's
just kind of hinting and showing
yeah.
us in the chase, like all of the other crazy, right? Just showing the body of the man next to him. We
Yeah.
never learned how he died, but it is
No.
implied they're
Yeah.
fed to the fucking dogs.
That's it.
Yeah.
One shot, one moment, and we get it. And I think it's the problem of it's a braid with only two plaits, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you kind of forget about the third plat. And, I was thinking in watching this, I was like, well, we did see a bloody sleeping bag.
Uh-huh.
But there's only fucking four characters in this movie. You can't just like eliminate an entire character and just never mention him
No.
again. You kind of knew Ben was coming back, but I do wish it had been braided a little tighter.
Yeah. And I it's also a thing too where with these kind of three protagonist characters, it's the man who makes it out and the women
Yep.
who end up being really, really, truly assaulted. I mean, Ben
Yeah.
gets assaulted clearly because he's been crucified. However, he doesn't get pursued by Mick. He doesn't, Mick.
He doesn't look around for his friends.
No,
He gets the fuck out. He does what we're like, yeah,
this is what you
absolutely
do,
leave.
but there's nothing interesting. The one interesting thing that happens here is he gets out. We see now at dawn
Yeah. He
the
walks like all day,
the
all night, all
scrublands and
day.
sand
Yeah.
wastes and all that kind of stuff. And then there is a total eclipse, a total solar eclipse.
Weird, right?
And I was like, wow, okay, yeah, we're back to the supernatural. I mean, eclipses aren't supernatural, but
Yeah.
it evokes
But
a
bad
witchery.
portent. Yeah,
Yes.
bad portents.
But then at dusk, so we see, okay, scene, light is changing around him. He looks
Mhm.
up, cut to a shot of the sun being eclipsed by the moon.
He falls to his knees.
Cut to him again. Cut to dusk. He is curled up in a fetal position.
Yeah.
Cut to a shot of the moon, which is in, like I said in my intro,
Mostly full.
if we go
Yeah.
left to right on our moon waxing, this is a waxing gibbous moon, meaning all solar eclipses are new moons. Has to be. It's
Oh.
impossible for
Yeah, of course.
an eclipse to happen if it's not a new moon. So I'm going to go with the assumption of, I've failed to say his name all through this, but Greg McLean Greg McLean, the director and writer of this film. I'm gonna assume the best, unlike Dario Argento in Inferno.
He just went, I don't know what an eclipse is.
No,
Let's
who
make it
knows
like
what that
this."
is? I think this is very deliberate because the distance between waxing gibbous and the new moon is going to be a hair under 14 days. So we're talking 10 or 11 days here.
Yeah.
So
So it's implied that he's out there for days.
it's implied that he's out there for almost 2 weeks.
I don't think that's possible. I don't buy it.
No.
Because you can't survive without water for more than like 5 days. 7 tops. We all watched The Ring.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How long can
How
you
long
survive
can you
in a well?
survive in a
7
well
days.
without water?
Well, she'd
7
have
days.
water. She just without food.
She'd
You
have
can't
food.
survive. I
Like
don't know if
water,
you-
it's like 4 or 5 days, I think.
maybe. I was going to say like 48 hours with zero water. That'd be so tough.
You know.
So I don't know. I don't know what the deal was here, but the implication, if you're going to show that gibbous moon after the new moon,
Yeah.
that he definitely had to have been out there for at least 10 days, if not 11.
Impossible, I say.
Okay. Either way, a French couple in a Volkswagen van find him on the side of the road. I think they
Oh
were
my
French.
God.
And they take him to Calbari. EMTs put him on a hospital plane. Then it goes to slow-mo shots of like federal agents in suits and sunglasses walking Ben like a perp in
Well, it's
his
like
suit.
he's in a suit as if he's going into a courthouse.
Uh-huh. And then we get the title cards saying that despite several police searches, no trace of Liz or Christy has ever been found.
The initial investigations were disorganized,
Uh-huh.
and the unreliability of the primary witness led to, you know,
Yeah, they couldn't find where any of this took place.
but I was like, you're in Wolf Creek,
Yeah.
Wolf Creek Crater.
Yeah, start from Wolf Creek and then he
And
said he
then,
went
but then it's
south,
this
but
idea that he drove them around for hours. So draw a 3 hour circle around Wolf Creek, and it's going to be a pretty big search area.
yeah.
But also, he's like, you're in a mine. How many old mines are there? Probably not many.
Yeah.
I think the implication is that, and this is actually kind of interesting. Um, when they were filming at that mine, this is kind of spooky.
Oh.
There was a killing that happened there,
Oh.
like an actual murder. And the locals did not welcome this film crew because they thought they were making a movie about that killing that happened in that mine.
Oh.
So there was baked into the reality of the making of the film a sense of we're the South Australian film, fund from Sydney and Melbourne have come to this place where they're in a place that actual murders took place. So there is an animosity already baked into this film between
Yeah.
people trespassing and telling stories that maybe they don't know the entire thing about. But
Interesting.
it's implied that Ben was taken to court because they thought he killed Liz and Christy, which I can like police due diligence,
Yeah.
I guess. But then I don't know, did he crucify him? Like he crucified himself?
Yeah. And also, I don't know how Australian law works in the United States. If you don't find the body,
Yeah,
you don't have a case.
yeah. I mean, they're
Oh,
missing persons. It's not a murder case.
yeah.
And it's
So,
like, but eventually he was let go.
yeah. And now he lives in Southern Australia or whatever. And then the movie concludes
Oh
with
yeah,
Mick walking around into the sunset with his
yeah.
rifle over the plains, about to go find a new place to be,
And
basically.
fully disappears because, they're investigating his murder hole.
Yeah. And he is off to be some other part of this enormous continent doing the same
Mhm.
bullshit over and over again. The end. Cecil, shall we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
All right, so let's start with horror movie approachability. If you're horror movie squeamish on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Wolf Creek 1 out of 10. That's not a knife, jokes. Yeah, it's not very approachable at all. We're going to talk about this is a movie about a man who likes to kidnap and torture and sexually assault people, who likes to do body mutilation. There is blood and gore, similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not a lot of close up of actual bodily mutilation.
Well, I
There's a
mean, Texas
couple of
Chainsaw Massacre is weirdly like kind of a bloodless horror movie. There's a lot of gross skeletons and bodies.
yes.
In this one, it's like you see pieces being chopped off.
Yeah, we do get the fingers flying with if we get the flingers.
Mm-hmm.
We do get the close up of him stabbing her, but and we get the when he gets shot in the neck. But
It's also the lingering on the gore.
that's what it
Like
is.
you're gonna watch every second
Yes,
of this dude try and pull a nail out of both wrists.
that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's this movie's a lot and it's very tense and very upsetting. I think it's well made for what it is, but still got some little issues with choices
Mhm.
here and there. But yeah, if you're pretty new to horror, I think we nailed it this week in finding a not for
Yeah.
the squeamish film. Yeah, you're gonna want to wait till you get to this one. So, to speak nothing of approachability, Cecil, how do you rate this as a horror film?
As a horror film, I'm divided because this is not my particular flavor of horror film.
Hmm.
However, I think this movie does have a lot of really good things going for it. In filmmaking wise,
Yeah.
in the look of it, in the pacing of it is pretty darn good. We said it has some issues. I think it's just interesting to see how much the horror genre has changed over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I would say 6 out of 10 do not camp here signs.
Uh-huh. Perfect. Well, let's figure out what movie we're going to watch next. You've got a scare die. I've got a style die. We will roll those up and see what movie fits those two things. So, Cecil, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare is Phenomenon, some type of super-powered thing. 2, a vampire. 3, a cryptid. 4, wild card. 5, an alien. 6, something witchy. What we got for scare?
That's a 1.
Gonna get that phenomenon.
Phenomenon. Do, 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 do.
Phenomenon. All right, let's figure out what style matches with our phenomenon. If I roll a 1, it's got to be a black and white film. 2, school day, something in an academic environment. 3, we're going to flip the script here and say for the squeamish. This is from our Patreon user, Cal. So we did not for the squeamish. This time, if we roll a 3, it's for the squeamish. 4, something from the 2020s. 5, something from the 1980s. Or 6, something taking place in the American South. All right, here we go. 5, 1980s phenomena.
Oh, solid. We have some solid choices here.
1980s, that was 10 weeks there. I don't think that's our oldest thing on the list. Our oldest current thing on the list, black and white, has been on there for 16 weeks.
Black and white's been there forever.
Okay, so we write down a few thoughts for each of these die roll matchups, and then we also have a Letterboxd account. We're at Random Horror 9 on Letterboxd, and you can see our lists of all of these matchups, and you can comment and suggest other movies. But I think we already have some good ones, Cecil.
I know.
Well, there's, of course, Firestarter, the Stephen King book turned into a movie.
You know what? I've never seen this.
Me neither.
I've never seen it. And I've never read it, to be honest.
I don't think I read this book either. I read a lot of the early Stephen Kings, but I haven't read this one.
Like, it was a little too scary when it came out for me as a child, but I was kind of the same age as Drew Barrymore, and I knew that she was like, I was like, someone my age is drinking. That's crazy. I'm 9 years old.
There's also, speaking of Dario Argento, Phenomenon.
Phenomena.
Phenomena.
Which
I'm sorry.
Phenomena
Phenomenon is the John Travolta movie.
Yes. Where he's like a good alien.
Yes.
This is where Jennifer Connelly, young, beautiful Jennifer Connelly, speaks to insects and also a killer on the loose in the Swiss Alps or something like that.
Uh-huh.
This is a people that love Dario Argento, this is often not one of their favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it, but it's been a very long time, and I would gladly revisit this one.
I saw people commenting after our Inferno episode. People were like, "Oh, you thought Inferno had some inexplicable things?
Yes.
Wait till you get to Phenomena."
Yeah.
Okay, so another one that I put on here that I don't know if I've seen before is Dreamscape.
I've never seen this.
I haven't either. It's very young Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid, Max von Sydow, Christopher Plummer, Kate Capshaw, like
George Wendt.
Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to make of this movie. The synopsis is, in order to diagnose the psychic traumas suffered by his patients, Dr. Paul Novotny gets young Alex Gardner to enter their dreams. So kind of like we did The Cell a while back on our Patreon.
It does kind of sound like that.
This looks like it could be really interesting. It looks pretty cool.
And very 80s.
Very 80s.
Like, the poster is pure 80s.
Yes. Okay, we also have another Stephen King, The Dead Zone. Christopher Walken.
Now, here's the thing. I came to this movie so late.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had never seen this movie until like less than 10 years ago. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this movie hits really hard.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, Christopher Walken.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I really appreciated this movie, seeing this as an adult rather than I think when it came out.
Yeah.
I would gladly watch this again.
Yeah, same. We have the Japanese kind of body horror movie Tetsuo, the Iron Man.
Oh my. Yeah.
This is a man
You've seen this, right?
I've never seen this movie. Saving myself for the show.
I mean, it's like Japanese David Lynch.
Yeah, it looks very Eraserhead-y sort of thing. Yeah, It looks twisted. Akira.
Yeah. There's some psychic business happening there.
Mm-hmm. Poltergeist 3.
Yeah, there's a psychic in that.
Yeah. And The Sender. I don't know The Sender.
Oh, I put this one on here. I need to go back and see because it totally fits the brief. A disturbed telepathic man is unable to fully control his ability to transmit his dreams and visions into the mind of people around him.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, this looks familiar, this poster. It's a British film. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's see what people on our Letterboxd had to say. Okay,
Masket, oh no, excuse me, Matt Skit Case recommends Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Yes. And he says, I know you all got bored of covering these, but this one fits the prompt. Yep. Jason gets resurrected by and then battles a young girl who is basically Carrie. But due to copyright law, absolutely not Carrie. Fun and stupid. Yeah, I knew that there was one of the Friday the 13th that had a psychic in it. Thank you for bringing this one up. I think listen, it might be time to return to the Friday the 13th series.
It's a good call.
Squin recommends Shocker, 1989.
Oh, yeah.
Wes Craven, I've never seen this. A serial killer put to death in the electric chair, but thanks to a deal with the devil, instead of dying, he's turned into pure electricity.
Nice.
Monstrum recommends The Witches of Eastwick, 1987. Eccentric man starts courting 3 women, all recently single, who happen to be witches.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah, they have sort of like innate phenomenological powers.
And they use their powers to battle against him. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Laughing Academy. Okay, so does Freddy Krueger's dream walking count as a superpower?
Mm-hmm.
If so, since you've done the first and third, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, aka the super queer one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about this because it's like the way the main character interacts with Freddy is all kind of, again, this sort of dream walking. It's like he's sort of it, and it's hella gay.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I would absolutely consider Freddy Krueger to be like kind of a
Sure.
Because there's a particular superpower beyond just like Jason and
Killing
Michael
machines.
Myers.
Yeah,
They're just killing machines. Whereas like Freddy seems like a particular phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Weaponized Toaster recommends The Fog from 1980. Classic John Carpenter. A strange glowing fog sweeps over a small coastal town in Northern California. Okay, sure.
Yeah. It is kind of an unnatural, supernatural phenomenon that occurs. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just reading.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Half Price Horror recommends From Beyond, the follow-up to Reanimator, but in some ways, it's a better movie with a lot more for Robert Crampton to do and a fun appearance by horror icon Ken Foree. The concept art is by comics legend Neil Adams. Very supernatural, possibly the most 80s thing ever.
This movie is a wild ride.
I've only seen like the first 20 minutes of it. So
it's super fun.
Yeah. Ace Diamond recommends Cat's Eye, 1985. A stray cat begins having visions of a girl calling to him for help and makes his way across 3 Stephen King short stories to save her from a supernatural threat. Yeah, Stephen King short stories. See, some of these suggestions do not quite fit what we're looking for, so I'm going to gloss over those. Ace Diamond also recommends Silent Night, Deadly Night 3.
Oh, the subtitle. Better watch out.
Better watch out. 1989. A killer from the second movie, now comatose, manages to free himself by forming a mind link with a psychic girl.
God bless that description.
God.
Yeah.
Silent Night, Deadly Night. Oh, my. Samson Ceramic recommends Maniac Cop, 1988.
Okay.
2 New York policemen, Tom Atkins and Bruce Campbell, and a policewoman, Lorene Landon, search for a killer in uniform who should be dead.
Uh-oh.
They say from the little they know about this movie, they cannot imagine it age well, but hello, Bruce Campbell. And absolutely, I'll take, because I was like, oh, it's about a killer cop. Oh, killer cop is supposed to be dead. That counts as a phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
Bimbo number 5 recommends Waxwork 1988, a truly goofy camp fest that follows a group of rowdy teens as they get sucked into displays at a wax museum. They must fight off wolfmen, vampires, and the Marquis de Sade.
Nice.
This was one of my stupid favorites when I was
Hmm.
like a teenager because it is like the stakes are so low in this movie.
Okay.
Mm. And finally, Just Say Corey recommends Bloody Birthday, 1981. In 1973, children are born at the height of a total eclipse. Due to the sun and the moon blocking Saturn, which controls emotions, they
Uh
become heartless killers 10 years later. Did we do their charts?
huh.
Is that real? And are able to escape detection because of their youthful and innocent facades. A boy and his teenage sister become endangered when they stumble onto the bloody truth. And
Huh.
it features an early Julie Brown,
The
the
funny
funny one.
one. Not downtown Julie Brown, but
No,
Julie Brown from Earth Girls Are Easy. Is that it?
yes,
Okay, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we've got quite a few movies to choose from. I mean,
Mm,
I'm a little partial to. Hold on, let me wait for this. While I'm
Like to hear
waiting
it.
for this siren to go by, Cecil, what are you leaning toward?
Okay, so we put some really solid contenders on
Hmm.
here. There's some wacky ones that y'all suggested. Honestly, I think we can come up with 6, put them on a die
Okay.
because it's I think when it's like we've got some things that fit the brief fully. And I think the 2 that we should pull from the letterbox suggestions are the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the
Part.
13th.
Oh yeah. So
Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2
Friday the 13th, Part 7, New
and Fred,
Blood,
yep. Because
and
listen, I know we have walked away from they're pillars of the franchise.
uh-huh.
They're going to be super 80s tastic. Just to put those 2 on there and then find 4 from our list, which in my mind would be Firestarter, Phenomena, Dreamscape, and the Dead Zone. Maybe swapping out Phenomena for Tetsuo. But I
Okay.
think Phenomena is actually like for talking people with psychic powers, I think is maybe more Phenomena.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Ugh.
Oh, or the Sender. I do like a wild card.
Um,
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I would be into okay. So from our list, Firestarter, Dead Zone. I'm interested in both the Sender and Dreamscape as a wild
Yeah,
card. One of those two,
they kind of knock each other out.
maybe. I'd be more interested in Tetsuo than Phenomena.
Okay,
I
okay.
may I may need a break from Argento after Inferno.
I understand that.
Uh,
Or do we want to like? Okay, here's the thing. I would pull Nightmare on Elm Street for the Sender because I know the Sender. In the very brief minute that I did the research on this film, it actually kind of inspired Nightmare on Elm Street.
oh, interesting. The Sender. Let me see if there was. I think of the letterbox suggestions. I think the one that like a few of these I'm really interested in, but like Maniac Cop I'd love to watch, but also
I
it
know.
doesn't it's not quite on the brief. Like
It's not
most
giving
horror
me,
movies are phenomena,
yeah, like
like
zombies are phenomenal. Like The Fog, great movie, but it's kind of more of a ghost story than
kind of
it
looking for
is.
like a special power, like
Yeah.
people with psychic abilities sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Like, and
So,
honestly, like Firestarter, like, someone like the glowing and wind blowing in their hair and shit starts moving or things burst into fire or they see dead people.
okay. Friday the 13th Part 7 New Blood. Definitely
Okay.
interested in this. I
Yes.
I
Yes.
just really
I
want to
feel like it's
thank
going to hit.
yeah, Matsket Case for giving us that. Uh Squin gave us Shocker was another one that was sort of interesting because a
Oh,
person who
right.
turns into electricity and it's Wes Craven, that was
Deal with the
intriguing to
devil.
me.
Okay.
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 Okay, we'll get to that in a second. I think here's what's on here. Friday the 13th 7 New Blood,
Oh,
Firestarter, The
yes.
Dead Zone,
Yeah.
The Sender,
Yeah.
Tetsuo,
Okay.
and I would say either Dreamscape,
Mm-hmm.
Shocker,
Mm-hmm.
or Akira.
Oh, damn. Okay, I would take Akira out because
Okay.
Akira has a lot of crazy shit
Yeah,
happening in it, and I think the phenomenon part of it gets lost in the sauce a little
I think you're
bit.
right. I think you're right.
Listen, Akira's crazy. I've not seen it in like 15 years, so it'd be cool to revisit. But I think we have other stronger options.
Okay, so Phenomena. Okay, so I'll put Phenomena back on there. For the sixth one, Phenomena, Dreamscape, or Shocker.
Oh man, I've seen Phenomena. It's I can understand. I would do Dreamscape
Okay.
because neither of us have seen it, and Phenomena is one of those where you're just like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
All right, I think I rolled the last one. Why don't you roll this one? I will tell everyone the numbers.
Okay.
If you roll a 1, Friday the 13th, Part 7, New Blood. 2, Firestarter. 3, Dead Zone. 4, The Sender. 5, Tetsuo the Iron Man. 6, Dreamscape.
That's a 3.
The Dead Zone.
Oh, yes. All right.
It's been a couple years since I've watched this one, but I'm excited to watch it again. I'm like you. I came at this one late because I read the book like 3 years ago and was like,
I've
I'll
never
watch
read the
this movie
book.
now. And yeah, I love it. It's really, it falls in that realm of Stephen King that is less sploopy, gloppy,
Yeah.
gory, scary, and more like
More thinky.
people are,
Yeah.
the world is awful. Yeah, and scary. Um, Shit. Okay, hold on. Let me just double check that.
Yeah. It
The
should be.
Dead Zone is good. I bet it is.
I might watch Dreamscape this week just for like fun.
Oh, I'm so interested in that. Oh, it is available. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm excited to see young Christopher Walken.
I know.
This will be great.
Martin Sheen.
Oh yeah, Martin Sheen, and this is of course. Oh, Tom Skerritt is in this, and of course this is a David Cronenberg joint. So you're not going to get out of it without a little bit of gloop
Mm-hmm.
glop. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see this movie again. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on Wolf Creek or ideas for what movie you would have done to match up a 1980s film about a phenomenon style superpower, let us know at Random Horror 9 on Blue Sky, Instagram, or Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for each and every episode. And on Patreon, you don't have to be a paying member to participate in those and watch The Dead Zone from 1983 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no wild pig biting your dog's head off or nothing. Boo.
Boo!